Hello everyone, welcome back. I hope you're doing wonderful. This is the fourth video in my artist diary series, and what this series has been all about is taking my art seriously for the first time, growing my art skills, and of course bringing you guys along on my journey so you know exactly what I'm doing to grow as a self-taught artist. This week I am probably taking one of the most important steps on this journey, and honestly one of the most scary for me, and that is answering the question, what do you want to create? And not only that, but also following through with this answer. As a beginner artist, this may be a difficult question to answer because you're still finding your voice as an artist, and that is totally okay. There shouldn't be any rush to this. My best advice if you're struggling with this is just create and learn and acknowledge what you like, and honestly, it'll come to you one day. For me, I feel like I've taken a lot of steps towards figuring this out, and I think I have a pretty good idea about what I want to create and what I want my art to represent. Honestly, I've probably known this for a while now, but I continue to tell myself that I'm not ready or I need to learn more to be able to execute it, and I feel like this is just the perfectionist in me. It's honestly such a bad mindset to have because you will always be a better artist tomorrow, and you shouldn't wait to create the things that you want. So I decided this week I'm going to create things that scare me. It scares me because I know that failure is a potential outcome, and maybe even the most probable one, but I want to get more comfortable with failure because that means growth. So this challenge is not only helping me grow as an artist, but also as a person. So yeah, let's just jump right into it. The first painting I decided to create is a scene from a movie, A Case of Alice and Hannah. This is a Ghibli kids movie that I seen for the first time recently. Honestly, the story is nothing groundbreaking, but it's cute and the art style is amazing, guys. It's so unique and I absolutely love the colors. So I knew immediately watching it that I wanted to paint a scene from this movie. This is the scene I originally had in mind while I was watching, but looking back, it looks kind of funny out of context from the story. So I decided to use this train scene instead. I also decided to make the colors a lot more vibrant and add a lot more shading and depth to the painting. So I was doing this a lot from my head, which was a little bit difficult just because I feel like I'm not very good at lighting it, but the outcome felt a lot more like me. If you guys know anything about my art, is that I don't ever do backgrounds, and if I do, it's usually something pretty simple. So this is a huge step for me. I know that I want to do large paintings with very detailed backgrounds like this in my original art, so I'm so glad I finally took the first step towards that. I really enjoy painting the background. The chair and floor especially were really fun to play around with, and also I am in love with this color palette. At first, this color palette seemed all over the place for me, and once I finally took a second to think about it, I realized that it was just primary colors, so I might use this a lot more in my art going forward, but we will see. So let's talk more about this challenge for myself. I really wanted to push myself into sharing art even though I don't like how it turned out. Personally, I don't think the outcome of this painting was amazing, but I still wanted to share it because there's still elements that I love, and I want to normalize art that we're not completely happy with. I think there is an idea that once you're good at doing one thing in art, it means you're probably good at everything. And honestly, my skills translate to some creative endeavors, but there are still a lot of artistic things that I'm horrible at and definitely need practice to even be mediocre, and that's completely fine and should be celebrated because trying new things is so important and is how you learn. For this painting, my struggle was painting the people. I really struggled with bringing these characters to life, and painting the face was so hard. This painting was very small and the characters are even smaller. In all of my paintings, I like to use larger brushes to keep things loose, but with such a small painting, it was really difficult to do that, especially with the details of the face. I actually decided to not paint the details of the face after trying over and over again. After this painting, I went on a deep dive on artists that I look up to and master paintings to see how they paint full body people in their art and how they execute the faces. And from this, I got the sense that they either used small brushes, did not paint any facial expressions, or they painted on a larger canvas. So I decided that for my style, I need to paint larger to execute all the details I want to include in my painting. I think I could also get away with buying new brushes that aren't just like 2 strands and would help me paint on a much smaller scale, but honestly, this whole thing was just frustrating to me, and painting larger would give me space to breathe and also have more fun. So yeah, painting big is probably the next step on our list. Okay, so I've had a concept that I wanted to paint forever now, and I think I just need to start making steps towards doing it. I was going to paint the entire painting this week, but after making a mess of the previous full body paintings, I wanted to paint a study before jumping into it, which I know seems like I'm just procrastinating, but at least I painted something out of my comfort zone. I got to try my new Holbein sketchbook. I think I'm just using this sketchbook for painting studies. The pages are quite thin and buckled quite a bit, but it's better than the Hemi Gouache sketchbook. I haven't seen gouache specific paper that hasn't buckled yet, but to be fair, those are really the only 2 I've used so far. So I started with an underpainting this time. This is something I always forget to do, but the first painting of this video could have definitely used an underpainting, so I want to make this more of a habit. I chose this vivid pink color because the color scheme is green and pink, which is something I will never be able to get away from. I am obsessed with those 2 colors. The reason why I chose such a vivid pink is because gouache dulls down when it dries, so hopefully using a neon color will help the final look more vibrant. Also, it was much easier to paint with the values already figured out, so I think I finally understand the hype of an underpainting. I am an oil painting girly through and through. It's how I started my art journey, how I learned to paint. It's really the only painting class I've ever taken, so that's how I approach my paintings. I start with the darkest shades and move towards the light colors. I do paint with gouache, so the painting techniques are different, but I approach the painting in relatively the same way. One thing I noticed about gouache is the color can change drastically when it dries, so as I mix paint, I take into account the other colors that have dried. This is not for the faint of heart. It's very frustrating, and most of the time I am remixing a lot of colors until it dries how I like. You might ask, why don't you just paint with oils then? Because I really like how gouache looks, and I also like that it's water soluble, and it's such an easy setup and cleanup process. That's really the main reason. Oil painting setup and cleanup is such a headache. Gouache is not perfect, but is for me. Speaking of mixing colors with gouache, I would really like to make a limited palette video soon where I show you my color mixing techniques. I feel like I'm pretty good at this, and I would really like to help you with your gouache color mixing process. Honestly, color mixing is pretty much the same across any medium. I just think with gouache it's a tad bit more difficult, but this video would help you with any traditional medium if you're struggling. Please let me know, because if there is any expressed interest, I would really go in depth, but if not, I'll just make it a fun little video. Okay, let's go back to the painting. I wanted to keep this loose. I did not want to get focused on any detail. As I'm painting, I want to see how each brush strokes affects the entire look of the painting instead of just one area. I think I did a pretty good job at this. I usually struggle with focusing on the larger painting, but this time I'm really proud of how it turned out, to the point where I left my entire painting process in this video. I did not cut a single thing out except for times when I was mixing paint. Usually I don't do this because I repaint a lot and I don't want to bore you guys, but I know you guys have been asking for uncut videos, so I hope you guys enjoy the process. Overall, I think I really like the final look of this study, and I do think it helped a lot to paint larger. I was able to put the details I wanted to include, and I realized this is probably the smallest I can paint a portrait how I like. So if I want to paint a full body in a painting, this is the smallest I can have it. So I can figure out the scale of painting from here. So yeah, this is the end of the video. Thank you guys so much for watching. I really appreciate it, and I will see you guys very soon. Bye!